Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and this is To Back or Not to Back, where we're going to dive into a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, and this week is a short week. There weren't like a ton of new campaigns, although it doesn't help that last week I split up into two, which means I also got some later in the week from GameFound, but nonetheless, we don't have a super busy week this week. We have like 7 or 8 campaigns. It might even be less than that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 campaigns to go through today. It will not be a super long video. But also, I almost debated skipping it this week, but the problem is I'm not doing To Back or Not to Back next week because I will be at Origins next Sunday, which means I won't have time to do this whole To Back or Not to Back shenanigans that I try to do every single Monday. Not only that, over the next 2 months, I'm not quite sure how often I will or won't be doing it, just because of the sheer level of schedule that I have going on. I will cover that more in next Monday's video. Next Monday, instead of a To Back or Not to Back, I'll be doing a different sort of video, so check out next Monday's video for both an update on how crazy my schedule is going to be for the next more 6 weeks than 2 months, but somewhere in that range, but also things you can expect to see on the channel over the next 6 weeks, or the uncertainty of who knows what you can expect to see. Anyways, with all that somewhat vagueness, I mean, it's not a ton to really get into. I'm busy. Convention season is going to be a little crazy. I'm going to be traveling a lot. Usually conventions are like, I'm gone Sunday, which means To Back or Not to Backs, which I do Sunday, are very hard. It's just me trying to balance what I really want to do, which is getting all these videos done, with just being responsibly mentally about how far I push myself. But again, more detail in next Monday's video. I only just did that now because I'm like, I hate vague booking, so like being like, hey, there's stuff, but you'll find out next week, sounds like there's like some big life update. There's not. There's just travel. Travel and me adapting to it. Anyways, with all that said, this is To Back Not to Back. We're going to be covering some crowdfunding campaigns, but let's start off as we usually do with our Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is a segment where I show you a regularly available retail game that you can get your hands on now, and today that's going to be Sale over at Game Nerds for $15.99, down from $19.99. If you don't know, Sale is having a Sale Legacy. All Play is going to be doing a Sale Legacy Kickstarter campaign. You can already follow that if you want, but basically, this is your chance to go ahead and get caught up on all the hype that is or isn't Sale. Like, hey, if you play this and you don't even like this, maybe you can save money on the Legacy game. You may as well go ahead and pick this up and see if this 2-player cooperative trick-taking game is for you. Or you could just back the all-play campaign and skip this, or you already have Sale, or you could just back it without having to try this first. All that's up to you. This is just me reminding you that this is a great, well-rated, well-reviewed game, available now, that you don't have to wait a year and a half for. But with that said, let's go ahead and dive into our first of our 7 campaigns, and this is a board game adjacent one. We have Game Toppers, the 5.0 game table system, game mats, and accessories from Game Toppers LLC. They do a lot of Game Toppers campaigns. This is a game topper. It's like a game table, but it's much cheaper than a game table because it goes on top of another table, hence the name Game Topper. It can go on top of a regular cheap old like plastic folding table, or alternatively there's other options you can have. You can even buy legs for it, thus making it a full-on game table that's still called a game topper, a game table. And there's lots of things, from mats to game toppers to legs. You can buy legs, 206 backers, $81,000 raised. I'm not going to go through all the things in this campaign. There's always a lot of stuff here. The short version is if you are looking for a budget-friendly game table option that also sometimes it's not even a budget. Sometimes it's just the fact that you have a table and you don't have space for a new table. So what can you do? You can have a game topper that goes over that game table. There's lots of use cases for it. They're pretty premium. You can find them at most conventions. They almost always have, like, if you're going to be at Origins, speaking of Origins, if you're going to be at Origins, they almost certainly will have stuff at Origins. They usually do. They usually have you can check them out in a variety of places and see if they're for you, but they effectively are budget-friendly options. Again, like, $80,000 raised, 200 backers, as an average of, what, $400 per backer? That's the average, as opposed to sometimes you have these game table campaigns, you're like, oh my gosh, you have $200,000 raised, and it's like 14 backers. This is much more affordable. These are your game toppers. With that, we're going to go into our Stefan Feld City Collection, Manila and Beijing. These are 2 reprint campaigns. Not reprints, that's the wrong terminology. These are 2 re-implementations of existing games. The Stefan Feld City Collection is an ongoing collaboration between Queen Games and Stefan Feld, where they put out the Euro games. Usually they're Stefan Feld's re-implementations, a previously done game that they are bringing back to life with a new name, new design, new tweaks sometimes to the rules, and then occasionally here and there are actually new games that are coming out. This is not the new games category. This is going to be Manila and Beijing. Manila is a re-implementation of Amerigo, and Beijing is a re-implementation of In the Year of the Dragon. 733 backers, $190,000 raised, 9 days to go, coming to you from Queen Games. These are games 11 and 12 in the City Collection, of which is a whole lot of these over here. I don't even know which ones. Marrakesh is a new one. Chichen Itza is a new one. Kathmandu I can't remember. Like, I don't remember which ones are. Nassau has elements of Roman Pirates, if I'm not mistaken. Again, most of these are some degree of implementations, but I don't remember all the exact details of which ones are which. I've played most of them, not all. Most of them. I played most of them by now, but not all of them. But anyways, we have over here, for these games, we have $90 for the Manila Classic Special. Speaking of which, if you follow the Queen Games games, there usually are a lot of versions of their games. All their games, including the Stefan Feld City Collection series. But the Classic Special Edition is replacing, let me see if I can find the update. There we go. Classic Go Special. They are getting rid of the Classic and replacing it with the Classic Special. So if you've been trying to get their Classic Editions, they are no longer doing that. They are replacing with their Classic Special, which they say are just more popular and well-liked in general, so you can no longer get the Classic Editions, which granted means people who have the Classic Editions who want a matching set are kind of out of luck because they're shifting to Specials or the full-on Deluxe Editions, which are the more premium expansion versions of the game. But that's just to let you know what you're looking at when you see these sidebars over here. But $90 for the Manila Classic over here, and again, that's Amerigo. Beijing is going to be $90 as well. We have the Manila Deluxe for $120, the Beijing Deluxe for $120, and then various bundles if you want to go ahead and mix and match, combine, or get games 9 through 12, or get the all-in, getting every single one of their games for $1,650 to get the full set of 12 Queen Games Deluxe editions of their games. That's the basic over here. Past that, they go into the various details of the boards, the changes. Again, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of gameplay changes from what I can see. Some small tweaks, but mostly it's component art and name. We have the Q Tower. This is a prototype. If you've seen Americo's Q Tower, it's like it harkens back to the old style Queen games like Shogun, that Q Tower. But it looks like they're making some tweaks and adjustments to it. Although Marrakesh also has that Cube Tower, so I don't know the full system. Maybe it's more of a balance and gameplay changes aspect. But then we have Beijing, which is in the Year of the Dragon. Americo is more of an exploratory one where you're going to be rolling, there was a dice cubes. You're going to be rolling cubes in an action system as you explore the isles and then trying to utilize the various cubes in order to get points in a ton of different ways. And in the Year of the Dragon is all about bad things happening to people. That's the game. It's bad things happening to people, the board game, and trying to control how and when those bad things happen to you so that you are least punished by said bad things. But if you like the bad things and making the bad things happen to other people and making sure that you are as safe from damage as possible, this has elements of that. So it's fun. I like the art and the name and the style and all that. So intrigued by this one. More so, like I have Amerigo currently, so I'm curious about Manila, more intrigued about Beijing, but that's what we have for these games over here. Past that, shipping is going to run you, they basically have the various price lists over here so you can check them out, all the way from 24 to 180. They also have free add-ons. This is worth calling out. They have free add-ons over here. Helsinki and Graffiti. These are games that are available for free. There is going to be a shipping adjustment, so shipping costs will apply. But past that, if you're interested in these games, and Helsinki is like a fun little polyomino game. Graffiti I know nothing about, but if you are backing this, by all means, get Helsinki for free. That's a pretty good deal that you can get, your $90 game, which is $90 for a game, but you can get Helsinki for free in the Pledge Manager. That's pretty cool. Queen Games has been doing stuff like this here and there, which is kind of cool, because I give Queen Games, I like their games, I give them flack about their model, their crowdfunding, I do all that, but their free games recently, they have been on point, so enjoy those if you are backing this game. Then we have Assyria 2nd Edition, 1,100 backers, $82,000 raised, coming to you from Garfield Games. Assyria is a re-implementation of the game of its same name. It's a 6.8 on Board Game Geek, been around for a bit. This is the 2nd edition with some tweaks to it, so it's not just updated art and graphics. So if you're looking at the 6.8, this may well be a better game. Not that there's anything wrong with the 6.8, but it's usually not where I would seek out and be super excited to go ahead and jump into. They're games that I may like them, but I don't chase them, so to speak. But this is a, from an established publisher, one who basically puts out a ton of hits, popular games that are well-liked and well-received. So there's a bit more confidence behind this re-implementation. Hopefully it is better than the original. Again, a baseline of good, moving it to better, hopefully speaking. But again, I can't say it is. I'm saying it's an established publisher who makes Euro games, so there's reason to believe in that. We have $49 for the 2nd edition. Garfield Games is keeping it plain and simple as they usually do. $49, just straight to get the game. This is what you can do over here. They do talk, and this one I am going to give them a little flack for. I'll give them praise in a second because Garfield Games is usually very, very non-FOMO to a large extent. But they had something interesting here, which I'm going to call it a little bit, although there's still an explanation, but let's just talk about it. We have MSRP is currently $60. This is likely going to increase due to the ongoing tariff situation. Get the game through Kickstarter, guaranteed lowest price. So they kind of say, hey, MSRP probably going to raise, so there's a little bit of FOMO of get it now before the MSRP raises. But then they say, note in US tariffs, Assyria will be manufactured in Vietnam rather than China. If large tariffs happen to be imposed in Vietnam in the future, we will not pass on those extra costs. So they kind of say, price will probably go up due to tariffs. Also, we're manufacturing it where there aren't tariffs And granted, things could exist, that could happen, but I guess it feels like there's a more of a slight fear-mongering followed by an assurance on the situation, if that makes sense. Now, granted, you could say, hey, well, there's still tariffs, there's still like a 10% tariff, or, you know, what if things. There's lots of explanations. It just felt like a weird disparity of slight fear-mongering followed by reassurance, and we're not producing it in a place that has wildly swingy tariffs anyway, if that makes sense. But, again, slight criticism. We'll then go to there for the Why Back Now section, where I always give Garfield Games praise. Because Garfield Games in general, they don't go for any sort of FOMO tactics in crowdfunding. They don't usually, well, past this one minor exception, they usually are very much, hey, buy the game where you want, buy the game how it works for you, buy the game where it's cheapest, where you want to get it, early, later, whatever it is you want to do. We're just happy that you are interested in our games in whatever format that is. We are not trying to convince you using cheap marketing tactics, etc., to open your wallets, blah, 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 all that stuff. Genuinely, Garfield Games usually does not engage in anything that would try to incentivize that FOMO behavior, but that unfortunately usually has the trade-off of me saying things like, oh, well, you can usually probably get it in retail cheaper. Granted, if the MSRP does actually raise, that would change that, but I'm a little uncertain how that's going to play out based on their back and forth over there. But that's Assyria, a re-implementation of an existing Euro game from Garfield Games. If you like their games, or if you like Assyria, this is probably something to pay attention to. If you don't care for Assyria, or if you don't like their games, this is probably something you can easily pass on. From there, we have Excalibur by Roxy Games. Excalibur, 4,000 backers, $263,000 raised, 11 days to go. A lighthearted game of tomfoolery, scumbaggery, and hilarious backstabbery for 2 to 8 players. This is basically a kind of, not really social deduction game. It's a little bit of deduction, but it's kind of the biggest comparison I can give this to is Love Letter. There's a degree of trying to chase the end game in this game, where you either want to have Excalibur, but you don't want to have the other sword, or you want to figure things out what's going on at the table. There's a little bit of, or you want to make sure that player has both the swords together. There is a little bit of trying to figure out where these tiles are, because you're going to have a hand of 4 tiles in the game, and you're going to have Excalibur in play. But as you play various abilities, you're constantly messing around with where the tiles are, who's holding on to what tiles, whether you force people to return tiles to the center in different ways. So it's a lot of just going through a lot of tiles and abilities while you try to be the one left holding the bag in the right way, but not the wrong way. It comes down to, again, those 2 swords aspect as, do you want both, or you want one but not both, or neither? Well, you don't want neither unless the player who has both, then neither's fine. It's all about trying to just figure out, you're playing Hot Potato. Hot Potato, the board game, but in some cases you want the potato, in other cases you don't want the potato. Again, a little reminiscent of Love Letter. If you've played Love Letter, it has that kind of feel as you play cards and you're kind of just trying to outlast the other players, as there's a degree of guesswork, a degree of deduction, a degree of slowly figuring out what's likely happening, but not through like real deduction like you might have in a game like, you know, Resistance or Blood on the Clock Tower or that kind of thing. More minor guesswork, slight odds, and reading the table, so to speak. So it has some of those elements going on. It's definitely on the lighter side as far as more party game experience. Again, I think this is targeting people who like games like Coup, games like Love Letter, who enjoy that kind of quick playing, semi-deductive element going on in the game. All that said, they are leaning into a very premium version of this game over here. I mean, if you're interested in this game, if you just hear like, oh, games like Coup and Love Letter and you're interested, great. You can still get this game at retail down the road, where there'll be a more standard, cheaper version of the game. This crowdfunding campaign is offering you the Deluxe Edition and the Collector's Edition for $40 and $65 respectively, although you could get like cheaper if you go ahead and get bundles. Like if you get 2 collectors, it's $115 instead of $130. That's a decent savings. Someone's saving $15 over there. But these are leaning towards those premium editions of the game. So if you like the idea of Coup, but someone's like, hey, you like games like Coup? Here's a new game that's like Coup, but it's also going to be very, very premium and very, very cool, but cost you $40 or $65. That's what this campaign is. If you want that $15, $20 version of Coup, wait for it to show up at retail. So, to that end, we have each player gets 4 chips. Every round player select a chip, uses chip's power to find Excalibur, wield Excalibur at the end to win. Unless you have the both things, then that's bad. That's bad. Get stuck with the cursed blade, and you shall be disgraced as the ultimate loser. Nobody wants that. Bob's been calling me that since 7th grade, and I'm sick and tired of it already. But that said, we have the collector's edition of the game, which is basically going to be the cooler. This is a $65 version of the game. They're showing the more expensive one first to, like, shiny and cool, because it is shiny and cool. There's like a crown and swords, and they're metal swords, and the chips are like plastic and premium, and they have all this, like, I assume the retail edition of the game is going to have like standard punch board chips, I assume. I don't know, they didn't say that, or at least I didn't see that if they did say that, but these are going to be plastic premium chips with metal swords and metal crowns and all that cool stuff in a really cool premium box. It's like a relic holy layered. It's all cool. It's all cool. It's very, very cool, very, very premium if you want that collector's edition of the game. Then there's the $40 $30 version of the game, which has the same idea, but this time in wood. I believe they said it's fully biodegradable, if I'm not mistaken, but same idea, but this time it's wood instead of, you know, plastic. So if you want that wood feel, or if you want to save that $25, but you still want something premium, this is giving you that version of the game. And it looks like the Deluxe Edition is going for 201 backers, and the Collector's is getting you 3,219, so it does not seem like that's even remotely close, which is fair. I want the metal swords. I like wood components sometimes. Sometimes it's even better than plastic or metal, but it's a sword. A metal sword is a metal sword. You can't really beat the metal sword. You can't. You just can't do it. Anyways, that's as far as we have for the campaign over here. Shipping's going to run you $9 to $21. That's going to be dependent on tariffs. So they're kind of giving you a range. They're saying, hey, we're not going to make money on tariffs. We're just giving you the range because this is the range. We just can't predict because we can't run a business on unpredictability. The best we can do is tell you that there's a variable cost that you will have to pay at some point, and we don't know exactly what it is, but it's somewhere in that range. That's what the shipping over here is. That's the campaign. That's the campaign. They've had the options, the pledge levels, all of that, which brings us to our next one, Roleplay Adventures Silver Threads of Fate. 1,730 backers, $46,000 raised, 11 days to go. Silver Threads of Fate is a new adventure for Roleplay Adventures, only requiring the core game. This uses core game components. It does not use expansion components. So if you have the core game of Roleplay Adventures, you can get this adventure, and you can get it in a few different ways. You can get it, the Lost Characters pack is going to be a bunch of characters, like 4 people are backing this pledge. This is 12 new characters, just 12 new characters. We'll come back to those soon, but they're new characters for the game. Then we have the Silver Threads of Fate, digital only, $15 for a PDF version of the game. There's not going to be any shipping costs, there's not going to be tariff fees, you're going to get it as fast as possible. And also they talk about like the cool aspects where like you can click on things and it jumps around. So like when you click on an entry, because Roleplay Adventures is like a giant choose your own adventure, a narrative game with dice challenges and all that stuff. But effectively a lot of it is the adventure, the choose your own adventure part. So when you go to an entry and you make a choice to betray the person and slit their throat, it's a little less dark than that, I don't know why I went there. You can tap on that and then it'll jump you automatically to the next section. So it's kind of has some nice elements in the digital form in addition to being cheaper and get no tariffs, no shipping, and faster. So they basically tout all the reasons why you might want the digital version of the game, and 71 people agree. But then there's the Silver Threads Physical, which is $25 over here, which is going to give you the Lost Characters pack. So that's the characters we talked about, those 12 new characters for the game. The Silver Threads of Fate printed storybook, the party journal as well, that gives you more sheets basically, and then a PDF. So the $25 for that, and 1,500 people prefer the physical version. I get that, because like even if I do the PDF because it's cool, at least I have the physical version, which reminds me that I own it. There's something nice about owning, like when it comes to books, I think a good Kindle is there for everyone, but if I love a book, I want that physical copy. I might still read it on a Kindle here and there, but I want that physical copy. There's something nice about ownership. Something nice about ownership. I'm not saying it's the most responsible thing to do, but it's nice. It's just nice. And then we have Roleplay Adventures, US only, $300 for the all-in over here. We have 16 people jumping on that all-in, and then we also have all gone, unfortunately, Name a Hero. $80 over here, you get the basic level at $25 level, but instead for $80, because you get to be responsible for naming one of those 12 new lost characters with approval from Thunderworks Games. That's basically the campaign over here. Past that, you know, we cover shipping over here. Shipping's going to run you $0, depends if you the digital stuff is $0, but US is going to be $0 to $10. Roleplay Adventures all in is only for US Continental for $15, and US Continental is $2 to $5, not $0 to $10. I don't know why I said that because I was looking at the Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico, but $2 to $5 for the basic pledge levels is what your shipping is going to be. And with that, we have Fintastic Sea from Pectus Games. They did the Wanderlust game, if I'm not mistaken. 102 backers, €2,000 raised. Fintastic Sea is a card tableau building game in which you're going to be playing cards, eating up various sea animals, and having the ocean move around and trying to like trigger various combos. There's a whole aspect going on as far as the cards in your reserve, cards that are scoring points, cards on the table, trying to figure out ways to basically get the right cards into your system to build up your tableau and score as many points and to trigger those combos, all while managing the fact that the sea is constantly moving and shifting around, and that's going to mix up your strategies or how you adapt to what's going on around the table. Pledge levels for the game are pretty straightforward. We have the starter set for €18 over here. We have the digital diver if you just want a PDF of the game, and then for $30 you can get 2 sets for you and a friend, and save yourself that 18 times 2 is 36. Save yourself that €6 that would cost you to get those games otherwise if you wanted 2 of them. Over here we have some of the stretch goals, things that are being unlocked for the game, and then shipping over here is going to run you, where is it? Shipping is going to run you, oh, there's a click, you have to click on a different tab over here. Shipping over here is going to run you North America, oh no, we gotta ignore that subscribe button. We got a €13 over here for the cost of the game over here. Shipping is going to run you €13 for 1 game, which is one of those things that makes it a little harder. We talked about this with cheaper games. An 18 euro game with 13 euro shipping is a hard pill to swallow, which probably does lead to why it's like, you know, again, it has 200 backers, 100 backers, and 2,000 euro raised, but it's not crossing huge lines, and definitely that shipping price relative to the cost of the game is always going to be one of those things. And then lastly, we have Red Dog Junction. 648 backers, $57,000 raised from Waterworks Games, 4 games created, 22 days to go. This is basically a pick up and deliver slash worker placement slash tableau building slash market system. There's all these like mechanics going on over here in this game, but it is like a pick up and deliver game with a market system, which you're going to be rolling dice and assigning the market values to things with the ability for players to mitigate those, all while taking your actions each turn in this semi-worker placement little puzzle here. For 1 to 5 players, but it's got a robust solo mode, or it says it has a robust solo mode, but otherwise it's actually interesting. I think they called it a 2 to 5 player game at one point, and then said there's a solo mode. Where was that? They said somewhere. I want to say somewhere, I could be wrong, sometimes I forget, I cover a lot of campaigns, and I don't remember which one to say which. I do remember there was a campaign today, I think it was Red Dog Junction, that said this is a 2 to 5 player game with a solo mode, and I was like, that's a 1 to 5 player game, but I still respect the saying. I still respect saying 2 to 5, because that makes me think it's designed around 2 to 5, and the solo is a variant of the experience as opposed to fitting naturally in there. But over here I'm saying 1 to 5, so and now I'm wondering if I'm crazy, because this says supports 1 to 5 player, and a challenging solo mode is included. Like, I feel I read that and saw 2 to 5, but again, I might be crazy here. Either that or the campaign page is updated, but one of those things is true. It's probably far more likely that I'm crazy. But anyways, that's the game. That's the game. A market manipulation, pick up and deliver, taking actions, building up your tableau, all of that stuff. There's a few core pledges over here. There's going to be the basic edition of the game for $59. Then for $84, that's going to be an additional $25 for those of you doing math. For $25, you get the metal cubes, the metal gold 4 die, and then 2 mini expansions as well as 2 new space freighters. So that's what you get for $25. Honestly, metal gold cubes alone, it can sometimes run that much, so not the worst deal overall. And then for $104, an additional $20, you're going to also get the concept art pins for your fellow players, as well as the playmat. Neither of those things interest me. They might interest you, but thought I'd mention as far as just so you know it's out there. And then you can build your own bundle over here with these various options in case you want to do that instead. That's the game. As far as shipping is, where was shipping? Shipping is somewhere here, but I'm not seeing on the sidebar, so we're going to scroll down and see if we can find the shipping. There we go. Shipping's going to run you to the US, going to be $8. I believe they were using all play. Yeah, because I saw the shipping prices were pretty cheap over here, but to the US, going to be $8 for the game, which feels fairly reasonable, all things considered. That is basically the games we have today, which means it's time for our picks of the week. I told you it was going to be a short week. I did not lie. Picks of the week. This is the segment where I tell you the 2 games that I'm going to pick as far as the value pick of the week and the personal interest pick of the week. Personal interest pick of the week is semi-easy. I don't know if there's anything I'm super excited about today, but Stefan Feld City Collection, I do like I like Stefan Feld games. Some of the games in the City Collection have worked for me and replaced others. Other times they're just good experiences. Like Marrakesh, I think is fantastic. Cusco is my favorite City Collection game. Others I either don't necessarily keep that can. Stefan Feld I love, but I can't keep all of his games, so sometimes I have to make choices about which ones I want to keep in my collection, and even then, sometimes I prefer the original. Like Bruges or Hamburg, I'm pretty sure I prefer Bruges, so like there's always that trade-off. But nonetheless, I like his games. I haven't played in the Year of the Dragon, and Amerigo, I think this looks cool. I'm not quite sure component-wise which ones I prefer, but Amerigo is a game that I've enjoyed, so yeah, definitely the most excited about this one from the campaigns we covered today. And as far as the value pick of the week, this is a gamble. This is not one I'm certain about, to be very, very clear, but I am going to go with Excalibur. Excalibur has a premium feel and look to it. Overall, definitely carrying on. Roxley generally does amazing production. Like when they've done things like Radlands in the past, those games, the deluxe versions of those games have held their value overall. And so it's not quite as sure over here because I think this is a lighter game than what they typically do. And that has me a little less certain. Lighter games generally don't do as well holding the value, even with premium versions. But it's Roxley, so I do think it has the most likely from the games we covered today. A Roxley premium version of a game generally does well on the secondhand market, so this is probably the best to get if you are interested, if you want that deluxe version. If you just want to play this game, if you're like, hey, I don't need a $65 love letter, just give me the $15 version, then you shouldn't get this campaign. This is more about if you want it, and you're just like, well, what if it's not for me? This is the one that I'm most inclined to say would hold its value, but again, it is lighter, and that does affect things overall. That's basically it, which brings us to our upcoming campaigns. We have Isofarian Guard launching tomorrow with 9,000 people following the campaign. If you want to follow Isofarian Guard Veilward, this is the expansion to the Isofarian Guard system, a well-loved game that has a ton of content, and now you have more content to the game, as well as some gameplay changes and tweaks to the expansion. And then we have Coliseum, the grand spectacle from Fantasia Games, 17,000 people following this campaign. This will also be launching tomorrow. Keep your eyes peeled for the newest version of the Days of Wonder Classic that went through TMG and now is at Fantasia, with some small tweaks and changes to the gameplay. I will have coverage for this game as well. You can check that out coming tomorrow. And that is everything. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Next week, I will have a video going up Monday. I have a video going up all the time, but it will not be two back and not to back. It'll be something else entirely, but it'll also be like a little bit of a conversation of just stuff going on as far as the next 6 weeks and what you can possibly expect to see or not expect to see on the channel over those next 6 weeks. Until next time, I'm Alex Back from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. My dad asked me the other day, "Are you even listening to me?" Which I thought was a weird way to start a conversation.